Hello my friends, this week is definitely the worst one for Russia since the beginning of the war. On this image you may see the Russian Su-35 fighter jet, the best serial-produced Russian fighter jet out there. Well, it's not the first Russian loss of Su-35, but it could be connected with F-16. Well, I don't have the evidence yet that Ukraine used F-16s, but it could be a great probability. It was shot down, by the way, in the Kursk region, which is bordering Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine is very active in the Kursk region, and Russia tries to use some of the aviation on Ukrainian positions, and Ukraine uses aviation there a lot. And there is the Russian regiment, which has already been cut from the supplies. I'm gonna speak about it also in this video. But at first, let's switch to the very important stuff. It has just been released by Ukrainian SBU, the service which conducted the spider web operation. So we have a new video, the evidence of the drone and how far it went to hit the Russian military base. And yeah, we're gonna return to this aircraft a little later. So here we go, it's the video that was released. As you can see, we have the starting position of the drone. Let's play it. So the drone took off from the track, as you may see. So definitely it happened as it was explained before. The track was standing there somewhere quite far away actually from the airfield. You can see they expedited the video by 8 times, and we may see how drone actually flown towards the base. Before there were already drone strikes, as you may see on this video. Everything is burning, and there is some sort of the small village, lake, and the drone continue its movement. It's actually great to spot the location and you have this smoke coming, and I believe that artificial intelligence control was not involved in that. Those were the drone operators. The airfield of the Russian strategic aviation Bela. This is the place, the parking spot for Tupolev Tu-22M3, the carrier killers, and you may see they were destroyed by FPV. That's the new video. Here the drone operator, he's looking for the target. Okay, what we have, like some of the tires there. Here we have the airplane without tires, so probably it's in active use and being prepared for one more flight. So it's better maybe to hit this one or the next one. The operator wasn't really in a hurry, and based on the battery voltage, the battery was more than enough to take the target, any target in this location. They were not in a rush, and I guess, yeah, the drone operator found the target, focused on it, and going to kaboom. As you may see, the tires were removed, they're placed on the side. This is the fantastic operation, guys, performed by Ukrainian SBU. I guess it's not the last video we witnessed from the spider web operation. More to come, guys, and all of that will be discussed on this channel. And here, my friends, I want to tell many thanks for my Patreon supporters and also members of the channel. Guys, you are maintaining my motivation to film videos almost every day, sometimes every day. I try to do it as hard as I can and as often as possible because of you. But if you don't have the opportunity to support me financially, you may just press your like to this video and obviously subscribe for the channel, because by doing so you help to propel the video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much for that as well. And now let's go back to the Russian Sukhoi fighter jet. This is 4 plus generation of the airplane. So what happened? How Ukraine was capable to cancel the Russian plane in the Russian airspace? Well, here we have the map. Well, let's go to the Kursk region. It's over here. Let's choose the weapon. Let's zoom out a little and let's check the Patriot system. Let's put it somewhere in the safe place behind Sumy. The range is 160 kilometers. So as you may see, it barely reaches Kursk Oblast. Well, you might place it closer to Sumy, for example, but it's very dangerous to deploy the Patriot system that close to the front line. And for this reason, I think the Patriot system wasn't really used by Ukraine in this case. Again, I don't have the evidence, but I think it was F-16 with the air-to-air missile. So how could it happen? How the 4th generation, let's be honest, kind of the outdated airplane was capable to shut down the Russian better airplane, Su-35, which has the most powerful radar out there from all of the fighter jets. Potentially with F-16 it's not possible to shut down Su-35 because it sees F-16 well before F-16 sees Su-35, and also Russia has longer range missiles compared to what Ukraine obtained. But it seems like Ukraine has a new feature, the surveillance airplanes. I think they were already sent to Ukraine and they're in operation. I'm speaking about Saab airplanes converted into the flying radars.
Ukraine just got eyes in the sky. Sweden's Saab 340 flying radar.
Well, I posted this video, reposted it on my channel, Telegram channel, so you may check it out. The channel's name is Wes O'Donnell, and the guy, he was flying the surveillance airplane, the different one, something like that, and he really knows what he's speaking about. Well, he posted this video just a few hours before Russian Su-35 was cancelled. And here he explains how potentially surveillance airplane could be used by Ukraine. Yeah, I'm gonna subscribe for his channel. It is must have because I like this video a lot, and the features he explained just awesome. I'm also gonna put the link for his channel in the video description for you to discover it. And I guess I'm gonna briefly explain you of what I understood from the possible tactics Ukraine used to hit the Russian fighter jet. Yeah, sorry about my drawings, I opened the paint just to have the white background. Yeah, this is the Russian Sukhoi, this is the Ukrainian F-16. So Russia definitely has better planes with longer range radars. Ukrainian jets have a shorter, much shorter range compared to Russian jets. Also, Ukraine has shorter range missiles. That's the biggest downside of the airplanes Ukraine obtained. But we have a new feature, Saab. I don't know how to draw Saab. Let it be like this. So yeah, very hard to draw with the mouse, but let it be Saab. So it may potentially fly behind the front lines, far behind. It has antenna, which is mounted on the top, and the range of it is astonishing, is roughly 400 kilometers. 400 freaking kilometers. That's a lot. And because Ukraine hit many of the radar stations on the ground, Russia is just forced to use their airborne radars on their airplanes for surveillance to find out Russian missiles, Russian fighter jets. But to correctly define the targets, Ukraine should switch also its radar on F-16, for example, particular one. But what helps Russia to define F-16 is then the radar of F-16 is on. It sends some of the waves, and Russia may detect those airplanes. But with this new stuff over here, F-16s, they don't need to switch on their radars. They can be partially stealth. And in this case, even if they operate in a long range of the beam of Su-35, it is very hard to be detected for them. So they might get closer in this radio silence mode, obtaining the information about this Russian fighter jet from Saab airplane, not using their radars. And that is how, reducing the range, they may already operate with shorter range air-to-air missiles. I think that communication system between Saab and F-16 is called Link 16, and Russians are unable to intercept it. So that's the new tactics which probably was used by Ukrainian Air Force. I'm not yet sure about it, but it looks like deploying Patriot systems was a risky move from Ukrainian side, first of all because Russia is very active with their surveillance drones. Just recall how Ukraine lost the Patriot launchers the last year. They were spotted by the Russian surveillance drones, like for example Zala or Orlan, and there was the fast strike coordinated with the Russian rocket forces, which launched the Iskander ballistic missile precisely on this target. And unfortunately, yeah, Ukraine lost not just launchers, but also people who were operating those Patriots. 9 of soldiers confirmed to be perished because of this attack. So after those events, Ukraine is not deploying Patriot systems very close to the front lines, but before it was very often Russia was losing their Su-34 fighters, bombers, and many other airplanes, including, by the way, Su-35. So because of this sad experience, actually, I don't think that Ukraine would deploy Patriots very close to the front lines, especially now that Ukraine is in lack of the air defense systems to protect its cities. And yeah, by the way, today Russia also launched the strike on Kharkiv. They hit the city with gliding aviation bombs. I'm gonna speak about it more in this video. Unfortunately, Russia continued their barbarian terror attacks on Ukraine. And yeah, it was confirmed that it was definitely Su-35, not just by Ukrainian side, but also by Russians. Okay, breaking news. Ukraine just demolished the Russian train full of tanks and other military equipment. The news has just appeared. A locomotive carrying a column of enemy equipment was hit in the south, again the southern part of Ukraine. There, Ukraine before, like maybe a couple of weeks ago, already hit one of the Russian trains full of diesel fuel and some military stuff. Well, it happened again, but this time, according to Ukrainian defense forces, it is more dramatic because many of the FPV drones attacked the train. It was similar to the spiderweb operation, and as it is reported, Russia lost 12 of the tanks. I'm eagerly waiting for the video confirmation. I'm sure that it will appear in internet, and probably I'm gonna speak about it tomorrow, or if I receive the footage while filming this video, obviously I'm gonna put it here. Alright, and Russian military bloggers also confirmed the loss of the train with lots of the military equipment. They call it the Spiderweb 2.0. I'm just waiting for the video confirmation, guys, because it could be awesome. Alright, now about Engel's oil jet fuel, or it's better to say storage. The fire spread and continues there for the second day in consecutive. Ukraine definitely was successful with this long-range strike. But as you may see, just a part of the facility is damaged. The rest of the tanks are more or less fine. It's the big storage, and Ukraine has opportunity for more strikes in the future. And this is Moscow. Again, something is on fire, but it's not a civilian building or something. It seems like it is some sort of the big storage. Yeah, we have it over here. There's the territory with a razor wire, but it's not the prison. It's already been confirmed that it's not the prison. So Ukraine strikes different Russian facilities, mostly connected with the military, but never ever Ukraine hits the Russian residential buildings on purpose. Unlike Russia today hit a residential building out there in Ukraine and Kharkiv with aviation gliding bomb. We have the evidence of it. Unfortunately, it seems like there were casualties. Those strikes continue every day, but you know what? Donald Trump, yeah, we're gonna speak about that one again. He just gave the green light for Russia to conduct those massive attacks. Yeah, Ukraine with its drones, it responding on the Russian strikes, hitting, for example, Russian bombers, fuel and oil storage and other stuff. But Russia started it from the very beginning of the war. But Donald Trump says and thinks otherwise. Just yesterday, Donald Trump was asked about a Ukrainian strike on the Russian bombers and what he thinks about it. Well, we have Ukrainian subtitles, but the sound goes in English. Let's watch it.
Because he has. Well, they gave Putin a reason to go in and bomb the hell out of him last night. That's something I didn't like about it. When I saw it, I said, here we go. Now it's going to be a strike.
So this idiot says that Ukraine gave the reason for Russia to bomb the hell out of them. So it wasn't Russia which gave the real reason for Ukraine to bomb the hell out of their aviation, military aviation, which they use very often to launch the cruise missiles on Ukraine. Guys, I understood that Donald Trump is supporting Russian interests. He puts Russian interests first ahead of even his own ones. Because with the policy he maintains, he carries lots of the losses personally, reputational losses. I don't know, guys, how to explain what is happening with the American president. Yeah, I think I said about it in my yesterday's video. So there is nothing new. I hope this guy will be kicked out even before his term is over. And Politica also says that the sanction bill on Russia is now undergoing significant changes under influence from the White House administration, the bill which already has the huge support in Senate. Yeah, unfortunately, guys, Donald Trump is not interested somehow in sanctioning Russia. He sees Putin as his friend or maybe even more. Guys, a couple of weeks ago we conducted a stream where we collected funds to purchase the fire truck. Well, we have awesome news. The fire truck has been picked up from the seller, currently getting maintained before departure towards Ukraine. Yeah, we have some of the pictures. I already shared those on my Telegram channel. You may see the fire truck. It looks awesome. Volvo FL 10, I guess. Reminds me Optimus Prime from Transformers. It will be deployed to one of the bases of Ukrainian armed forces to fight with fire, because Russia is aiming towards Ukrainian military bases as well. So thank you guys again for this huge support of the fundraise. You did absolutely fantastic job. You are awesome. Oh my god, what is happening in Tula Oblast? There's some sort of the kabooms happening. What the heck? Well, I have the report that it is some sort of the factory which produces chemicals which could be used in production of artillery powder. Yeah, for the last week, Ukraine is very active with its long-range strikes and different operations. The week was really terrible for Russian military. And about the beef between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, it seems like there will be no agreement between them. So they will stay like enemies, even though Elon Musk has deleted his post about Jeffrey Epstein's files, where Trump is also, according to him, was involved. And yeah, there was the confrontation between Elon and Trump and some of the Trump team members. Allegedly, Elon Musk was hit by Bessent, who is the financial minister, I guess, of the United States of America, but Musk was the one who started the fight. And yeah, according to the Washington Post, Trump believed that Elon Musk is definitely a drug-addicted person. We don't have like the real evidence of that, but many of the media sources report about this stuff, and I think it also could be real. On Musk's page on Twitter, there is like no new beef. He reports the stuff about Falcon, about SpaceX and other stuff. Elon is calm for the last 24 hours. Trump is more or less also. We'll see how it goes. I hope for more entertaining. I bought lots of the popcorn to watch that shit. By the way, Elon's father is attending Moscow these days, and he says that the beef that happened between his son and Donald Trump happened because of the stress which his son experienced for the last few months. Meanwhile, NBC News published the information that Donald Trump is kind of concerned about the potential support of the Democratic Party by Elon Musk. Trump says that Elon Musk will face very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates, and it could potentially, in theory, happen. Yeah, the probability is very low, but there is. If media also says about it, if Trump is definitely concerned, it could happen. I mean, for Elon, it will not be like a big deal to destroy the remains of reputation of Donald Trump, because he was there, he was in his team in MAGA. He may uncover lots of the stuff about insights, about Donald Trump personally. Yeah, it could be a really big bomb even without Epstein files published. Alright, it seems like there is the new civil wars coming in Russia. A religious organization, 40s of 40s, yeah, that's the name, 40-40, which is the Russian Orthodox Church. It's not forbidden, it's like official church, and I think it belongs to the Russian Patriarchy. Well, they're really concerned about Islam rising in Russia. They say that those could be even organizations created, fanatics, which potentially might do lots of the harm to Moscow and to Russia in general. Well, this branch of the Russian Orthodox Church is kind of extremist, but it's not forbidden. And we already have the response from the Apti Aludinov, who says that that church guy is not a legitimate one. He's the guy who is responsible for blaming Islam and for the national division in Russia, and he calls for investigation of the church guy. But I don't think it will be. So there's now like this internal battle ongoing. FSB officials and FSB in general, well, they actually hate Kadyrovites, and we see how Kadyrov is little by little losing his power in Russia. Just 3 days ago, Kadyrov man decided to kidnap one of the bloggers in Moscow. That blogger said something bad about Kadyrov, and they definitely put the guy into the car, but Moscow's police, they actually detained Kadyrov people. Yeah, later on they let them go, but in fact they now have investigation against Kadyrov people out there. Before it was like absolutely unimaginable, but now it's the fact. Kadyrov is not welcomed in Moscow with his unruly actions any longer. That's the sign that Ramzan is definitely losing his power. I think we're gonna see a huge change, maybe even this year, which could bring the spark which may start the fire of the civil war in Russia. Alright, it seems like the Russian economic crisis is closer than I thought before. Bonuses reduced for Russian military recruits. In many of the regions of Russia, bonuses dropped by 50%. Those bonuses were coming not from the Russian army actually, but from the local civilian budgets of the cities, the districts of the oblasts. But it seems like they're running out of those funds. They don't have money, even though Russian army needs soldiers a lot. The cuts of those allowances in some of the Russian regions will cause Russian volunteers to go and migrate to the Moscow region, for example, where they still pay a lot. Yeah, Moscow is still rich, they may pay, but other Russian regions, it tells a lot. It's one of those symptoms of the Russian economy future collapse. And obviously the bad economy situation will increase the internal confrontation in Russia because the Russian society, it's not united. Alright, now about the front lines. Here Ukraine is using lots of the bombers. They bomb Russian positions as hell. By the way, in this region of the Kursk Oblast, Russia lost the airplane. But Ukraine also goes with the ground operation, and according to my information, which is published by some of the Ukrainian analytics, Russia is already cut in Totkina from their supplies, and there is the regiment of the Russian army, the 56th Aeromobile Regiment. So they're jammed because there is the river and Russia will have to send reinforcements to the area. Russia is very active in Sumy region, not far away from this place, and I guess if they don't want to see all of those images and videos with their guys being surrendering, like potentially hundreds of the Russian troops could be encircled there, well, they need to slow down their Sumy operation. There is no other way. Maybe it was the main idea of this operation in general, because it may carry lots of the reputational losses for Russia, because Putin says that the Ukrainian Kursk operation is over, Russian army was successful, but Ukraine may potentially show lots of the Russian prisoners of war which were trapped on the Russian territory. This is the great success of the tactics which Ukrainian army is using here. And I would also say that Ukrainian aviation is working full scale, especially in this part of the Kursk Oblast. Su-35 was downed at that particular place, which is, I would say, roughly 20 with something kilometers away from the border. In case of the Patriot use, Ukraine should have put those very close to the border. I don't think it was the case. I think that after all, Ukraine used F-16s. Yeah, as I've told you, the Russian Sumy operation is not that far away. Russia captured many of the villages for today. Yeah, I guess they've took Alexeyevka under their control, but Ukraine uses drones against the Russian attack forces, and Russians, they do have losses. Alright guys, and now please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.